I will set the zeitgeist straight.
The movie has too much of the cast in it.
Man, I'm saddled with Jeff Goldblum, the world's most uncharismatic actor.
But it has no poetry.
That's not what this is about.
The problem was when the hero started facing adversity.
Get off your soapbox, Laura Dern.
I want to square off on this guy at a dinner party.
The music was thick.
So far, you have not dazzled me. I'm just letting you know. Welcome to Off the Mark, good chat on bad takes of great movies. I am Dave Columbo.
I'm Mick Andrews.
Let's do the entire thing like it's AM radio.
Oh, yes, we'll bring it real down low.
Really down. Let's do that. I
we're
can't
here
even
to
maintain
talk about movies.
So here's what we wanted to do today. So basically our podcast is we like to read reviews of awful, terrible reviews of the greatest movies ever made, so that we can figure out what the hell they were thinking. I don't know if you feel the same way, but I always feel like, and especially in these last 5 episodes, we've been desperate to get to the meat of each episode, and there's so much that we can talk about, so much extra stuff going on, so much around the entire concept. So we thought we would do a little side episode where we kind of read a couple of reviews that we found that, you know, for movies that we didn't have enough to really make a full episode out of, and do some little odds and ends and other stuff and kind of talk around the subject a little bit as a little, you know, kind of interlude episode. And we'll get back to full movies shortly. But, you know, what do you think? What's been on your mind?
I'm excited for this one. I'm excited for this just because I find that these smaller fringe movies, you've previewed a few of them for me, so I think I know what's in the can here. But some of these movies I think lend themselves to being not big enough for people to make a stand and make a principled argument. I'm kind of hoping for some real off the wall thoughts on these movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who's got a hot take on that movie? Why are you worried about, what people think of this?
Some of it is done out of necessity, because when we look for reviews, a lot of times, Rotten Tomatoes will say 5 people hated Die Hard. And then you go and you try to look it up, and all of them, besides the little one-word blurb, all of them are no longer found. This has been scrubbed from the internet. Right. You will never, ever find this. And so all you're left with is just the blurb from a review gone by that has disappeared to the ages. And so, you can't really do a full episode with one sentence. So it's fun to kind of maybe compile a few of these together.
To give you an idea, I tried to find a review the other day for a movie from cinemawriter.com.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out that domain is now available if anyone's interested in buying it.
Oh, we should get it and then do our own terrible reviews.
And write our own reviews.
Yeah.
Or fill in the blanks from old reviews.
So, yeah, that would be great. So before we start anything, I have to show you my new purchase. Every now and then I get crazy and I go on eBay. And I found...
As you do.
Oh my God. This is a poster for the world premiere screening of Space Mutiny from Variety magazine.
Whoa.
So I bought it. It's literally the page taken out of the magazine to advertise that Space Mutiny will have its premiere screening.
World premiere screening. Oh my God.
Screening schedule
great.
1988, Sunday, October 23rd at 5 p.m.
Even got the stupid fucking golf cart speeder on it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, and they're just shooting off in
great.
2 different directions. This is going to have a prime spot, because it's just anything that's I don't know about you. I mean, we've talked a little about movie props and the actual tactile thing. Anything that is an actual piece of history, especially from a Mystery Science Theater movie where there was not interest until Mystery Science, movies that just fell through the cracks and nobody cares about this thing. But then Mystery Science Theater came around and reignited people's interest and love for this thing, even if it's ironic. I'm blown away by that. And I just wanted to capture, because a lot of it gets lost to the ages, because it's not like it's props from Citizen Kane. These are things that nobody.
Oh, sure.
I want to save them,
Yeah. And you know what is always great is when you see them like duplicated. Like that's when I get excited. Is every now and then you see something like the masks they used for some of the aliens in This Island Earth shows up in another movie because they were on the lot and they needed to and I'm just like, oh my god, it's all one place.
Yeah.
All of my you know, like nostalgia and love for these horrible movies they're all made in the same factory.
Yeah.
That excites me so much. Or to see like I don't know, I forget what movie it was, but it was a Mystery Science Theater movie they did where they used the exact same lizard mask from the famous Star Trek Kirk
Really?
fight scene. Yeah, I forget what movie it was, but it was in the back, and
It's just the same mask.
It's just, and I don't even think the writers on MST3K caught it, but
Yeah.
I remember seeing it being like, that's 100%. That's 100% the same costume.
Well, there's a very famous piece of like lab equipment that's been in like Star Trek and Babylon 5 and like Mac and Me or something. Like it's been like in like, and it's the same, it's like a tube with like a laser going through it, and it's just this default like, it's a futuristic thing that goes in the cargo
future
bay.
coil.
Yeah, future coil. Oh, that should have been the name of the podcast. And you know, knowing that it's just like someone dug it out and it's like, what do we change? How much can we, let's move it to this angle and no one will know kind of thing is amazing to me.
One I see a lot. There's an episode of Doctor Who. They're trapped on a space station that's circling a black hole. They wear these orange spacesuits with like a square kind of cuff around the front. That spacesuit shows up in so many shows.
Yeah.
It shows up everywhere. And I know that they're not the first ones to use it. I love seeing that as like a connected kind of like link of like little peek behind the curtain. It's like hearing the Wilhelm scream and annoying everyone around you by going like, there it is.
Well, did you hear the new news about the Wilhelm scream? They found
that is the most inside baseball movie. Did you hear the news?
Yeah.
Did you hear the news about the Wilhelm scream?
I mean, you're up to date with Wilhelm trivia, right? It's insane. They found the original audio recording of the actor in the studio doing random wild lines that eventually got the Wilhelm scream.
Really?
Because the original was not filmed on location, because I can't remember if it's either the one where the guy gets shot in the leg or if he's being attacked by a gator. They keep saying that like the original Wilhelm scream is further and further back, but they found the audio tape of him going like, "All right, Frank, we just need you to screaming like you're getting eaten by a bear or something," and he just goes like, "Yeah," but like he does a couple that aren't quite right.
Aren't the Wilhelm scream?
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it's hilarious because he's just like, and they're like, no, I mean, like more immediate. And he's just kind of like, and they're like, no, it's try one more. And he goes, and it's like, yes, there it is.
Oh, cut print.
It's because they didn't know that this was history being made in that moment.
Yeah.
It's like stuff like that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But so let's jump in. So I have a couple of quick little things that we can do here to kind of just a little palate cleanser from the last couple of days. So we had a comment on YouTube of somebody who's watched the show. Thank you so much. Please comment, like, share, subscribe, and we'll read your comments out on the show if you have anything that you'd like to add. But someone said, I once saw a review of the movie Gandhi in the Miami Herald that infuriated me. If I recall correctly, the reviewer complained that Ben Kingsley looked too much like Gandhi.
What?
Now, honestly, before we started this show, I would have probably been like, no.
No one would have written that.
There's no way. But now that we've dealt with the insanity of what our show has done, I do not put it past somebody to be like, and he looks too much like him.
I can't decide though if my gut reaction is that is someone saying he looks too Indian.
It may have been. It may have been that it's like
When did Gandhi come out? Is
But-
that in like the
early 80s, I think.
early 80s?
If I
Oh
remember
yeah,
correctly.
82. Okay. Never mind. I thought it was earlier than that. I was trying to think of like how far out from John Wayne's The Conqueror are we?
Right. but
Would
yeah.
they have preferred Ben Kingsley to not even try to look like Gandhi?
But I noticed that it doesn't sound like the review is Ben Kingsley shouldn't have done it. It's that like he did it and it's they did too good a job, and the fact that they did too good a job is the racism. Now that you say that, I don't know for sure, but like that's also it's a weird way to communicate Ben Kingsley shouldn't have been Gandhi, to say that he looks too much like him. But again, we're going by this guy who said that that's what he remembered from that review. So
and also to the point of that comment, like there is no suggestion. It doesn't sound like, we haven't read the review, but it doesn't sound like the reviewer suggested an alternative.
No, yeah.
Just he or she would still cast Ben Kingsley as Gandhi.
And from my experience with film critics from 1982, I don't think they're going to be like, how about some representation? Like, I cannot.
Yeah, that's not the note.
That is definitely not the note. So here is a review that I found. It's the only negative one that I could find for Terminator 2 Judgment Day. So what I love about this is Terminator 1 already did Terminator 1. Like, you've already got, it's not like this is new. It's not like this is coming out of nowhere. So remember what Terminator was. Now remember what Terminator 2 did for the franchise. How it was slick and faster and bigger, and it was just everything cranked up to 10. Where everybody's like, Terminator 1 is this fun, cheesy 80s iconic,
It's a little time travel movie, yeah.
blah blah blah, and Terminator 2 is like, I've never seen anything like this.
It's also the apocalypse. Can I make a prediction, if you don't mind, before you get in?
Please do.
I think that the most basic thing you can do if you're going to review a movie sequel is to have seen the first movie as well as the second movie. I think that is just fundamental journalism. I no longer have faith that movie reviewers conduct themselves on a fundamental journalistic basis. So I'm willing to predict that this review belies the fact that the reviewer has not seen the first Terminator.
Can I ask you to make another prediction?
Go on.
The first sentence is one of those a lethargic, lazy expletive that we love so much.
Yeah,
Take a guess of what you think this one sentence, very, very quick expression of disgust is for Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
See, the first one that comes to mind, and it's one that I think of now that we've read it, it's one I think of all the time, is the one from Star Wars, which is, "Oh, dull new world."
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a play on that. It's going to be like, "Oh, the humanity." How about that?
Okay.
That's which actually would be a decent and fun little play on the fact that they're robots.
You're putting way too much subtext in there. Terminator 2, Southern Voice, August 1991. Ho hum.
Ho hum.
Everybody in this product is arrogant and intensely dislikable.
Oh, okay.
Except for the gang of life affirming, beer swilling Mexican Americans who appear to live in an automobile junkyard where they're blissfully happy. Are they part of the great American dream Arnold Schwarzenegger, the film star, is always carrying on about in TV interviews? Where are we? Where are we?
What are you talking about?
I have almost every line of that movie memorized. I do not remember the life-affirming gang of beer-swilling Mexican Americans appearing in an automobile junkyard. I don't remember them.
I don't remember that scene at all. If it happens at all, it's in the first 15 minutes of the movie, like before the inciting incident, right?
Or like it's the camera panning past them in the background to
Yeah,
get
they're
to the
extras.
big, time travel orb.
This guy is he's doing the movie equivalent of like, can you guys just get out of the way so I can watch the really interesting stuff,
Yeah.
which is like 500 yards that way. Can we all, let me just for a second. Let me just say this. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a man who grew up in Austria, and his one definable, like one unique characteristic is the ability to lift heavy things. And he did that over and over and over again. And he did it so good and so well that everybody in the world knew who he was for his ability to lift heavy things. So he comes to America and goes, I want to be a movie star, despite the fact that he can barely speak English, to the point where in his first movies they had to ADR in every single line because when he delivered them they were unintelligible.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, the ADR lines not great either. Like
no,
like,
yeah, no,
it's still, you gotta like, you'd be better off with subtitles for some of them.
Yeah.
This man became the #1 action movie star in America, in the world, despite barely being able to speak English and having no like really marketable acting skills. I would wager that the original Terminator, I'd wager that the original script had more speaking lines.
Yeah.
It's his ability, he was so new to the scene and his English was quite limited. I wouldn't be surprised if they cut a significant portion of the script in order to account for it. So all of this is to say that man is allowed to speak about the American dream whenever he goddamn pleases.
Yes.
Yeah. He is the American dream.
Yeah.
Just coming out of nowhere with one skill and turning into the governor of California.
Yeah.
That guy is allowed to, don't you dare tell that man he's not allowed to talk about, like, listen, you can achieve dreams.
Yeah.
You can achieve your dreams despite everything possible working, like mathematically saying that's not likely.
That's a fabulous point.
Blows me away.
That's an amazing point, and you're totally right. And in kind of like an inverse mirror version of that, I would say film critics are probably also, when you want to talk like the American dream, like, I'm getting paid to do nothing. I found a niche. I don't have to go on set or do anything. I literally just get to tell people that they shouldn't talk about the American dream. That's the American dream. Let's keep going here.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
The picture is said to have cost upwards of $100 million, though a dream sequence of a nuclear explosion is laughably fake.
No,
it's 1991, and that was amazing.
Yeah.
She explodes into a skeleton. That
scene, I saw T2 when I was probably like, I don't know, 11, 12 years old for the first time.
Yeah.
That stuck with me to this day. That's how when I think of like, what if a nuke?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Like every time I see
it's
on the news,
holding onto a chain link fence.
Every time I see on the news where they're just like North Korea is encroaching into the neutral zone, the first thing I think of is like, like it's literally I play that out in my head.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Schwarzenegger plays a cyborg sent from the future to protect a particularly repellent child who is allegedly key to the survival of the species. There's your clue that he didn't see the first movie, because he's not saying like in a change of pace from the first one. He's literally going like, in this movie, this is what we get. Also, I hate to do this. I feel like I do this every episode. Love it though.
To be so technical, he's not a cyborg.
Mm-hmm.
He's a robot.
Mm-hmm.
A cyborg is a human with like robotic parts inserted. That he's an android, if you want to use a super technical term, but he's a robot.
You're saying this after you saw the amount of attention that he gave to the Mexican Americans appearing in the automobile junkyard.
Okay, you know what? When you put it like that, Dave. All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
The picture has that dirty day glow pink sheen currently all the rage among West Coast high conceptors.
What?
That's what you see when you watch Terminator 2 is the pink day glow sheen. And Linda Hamilton, playing the kid's mother, gives a performance so overblown, so overwrought, that she behaves like a one-note hysteric. Again, you didn't see the first one, because if your first comment isn't, holy shit, I can't believe that's the same actor from her character in the first one to this one, if that's not your note, you're wrong. And you did not watch the first movie.
You didn't do the homework, yeah.
The movie amounts to one long, long chase scene, and damned if the American public isn't lapping it up as if it was something special. I don't think I've ever seen you wince like that. That was such a subtle wince.
Is the note that one long chase scene should in and of itself be like a detraction? Like, is that supposed to be
I'm
a
not
bad
sure, because
thing?
it's like the movie amounts to one long, long chase scene, and damned if the American public isn't lapping it up.
Yeah,
I think it may be like
monkeys don't love it.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
some of the best movies ever are one long chase scene.
Yeah.
It's a mad world is arguably one long chase scene. Mad Max Fury Road, that's another gigantic, exclusively a chase sequence.
Yeah.
And two fantastic movies. T2, it is a gigantic chase scene that works. There's also goals along the way. Like, there are things that they do, like they've got to break into into Skynet, and
Apparently not. Apparently you're reading way too much into it. This cyborg and this overblown hysteric mother.
Yeah, overwrought.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
I mean, also, it's a quick little side note, when they say a particularly repellent child, as far as kid actors go, kid characters and kid actors, Eddie Furlong in Terminator 2 is about as far away from that annoying tag-along kid role as you're ever going to get.
Yeah, he's good in it. He's not, I don't think he knocks it out of the park. There's a little bit of scenery chewing, but like the whole the whole scene where he's trying to teach him like hasta la vista feels a little dated. But,
a little bit, but then like, to me, that's evened out by the holy shit, you can't go around killing people. Like, there's genuine moments where like he pulls Arnold aside and goes like, you're not a murderer. You're not a cyborg anymore. You're not a murderer anymore. Like, you can't do that. And it's just played very serious, very real. So yes, there are those moments, but it's, to me, it's like there's enough there where you're like, no, there's subtext and there's stuff happening.
Yeah. I mean, for a kid, how old was he when he made this movie? He's probably early teens.
Yeah.
I think he does a great job. It must be tough to be a kid actor, man. I don't know what it's like, but
you can't win. Imagining where I was emotionally at like 13, and then putting me in a context where like I'm making the biggest movie of the year in front of James Cameron. Like,
yeah, and it's on my back. Like, I'm carrying some heavy emotional scenes.
I'm in every scene because everybody's out to get me.
And in most scenes, my scene partner is a literal robot who's incapable of emotion.
Yeah, I have to
carry the emotional weight of every scene I'm in because I'm playing against nothing.
Yeah. All right, you ready to get really mad?
Sock it to me. Let's do it.
I didn't get where this is from, but this is a review of The Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
Remember what Star Wars accomplished. Remember, I don't know if you were alive then, but take yourself back, listener, to 1980. The world changed in 77, and this is the sequel to Star Wars. The most dazzling trick in the Star Wars armory remains its opening caption, announcing that what we are about to see takes place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. The trick neatly conflates past and future, fairy tale and science fiction, but it also neatly evades the responsibility of science fiction to imagine the future we deserve. And the challenge of a fairy tale to create a world in which we might have lived and therefore can believe.
What? So it can
the responsibility of science fiction is to imagine a future that we deserve. That is, according to this reviewer, specifically the responsibility of science fiction. And the responsibility of a fairy tale is to create a world which we might have lived and can therefore believe.
First up, let's just say this. All it ever says really is a long time ago.
Yeah,
that is
you're adding all the shit.
That's the sole part of Star Wars that makes it dated. It's also in a galaxy far, far away. The whole point of saying a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away is don't worry about whether or not this is us in the future or us in the past. This is
think about the fact that the lights come down, Lucasfilm, fade to black, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. This reviewer's like, I feel cheated. He's already
I was promised both a fantasy and a future movie.
Yep.
The
Star Wars series, now in unpromising infancy, basically asks us to imagine and believe nothing. Its technological sophistication does away with the need for the former, and its camp melding of myths in storyline and characters acknowledges the impossibility of the latter. It's just, what movie are you watching?
What are you watching?
What are you watching?
Are you watching? Yeah.
With the revelation that Lucas has such a series in mind, even the genuinely fun elements of the first film, its comic strip eclecticism, its movie serial dash and narrative tropes, are pedantically filled out and institutionalized. The choice of Irving Kershner as director, presumably to help bring out the human elements over the comic strip streamlining of Lucas's own direction, proves in the event ill-advised.
I hate this one, Dave. I hate this one so much.
It's just mind-boggling. What the series so far appeals to is audience naivete rather than innocence. The perfunctory conflict of good and evil is less the driving force than the steady escalation of special effects. And cynicism rather than wonder. This is Buck Rogers on a super colossal budget, inviting us to lose ourselves in the gloss, not the story.
That's just wrong.
Yeah.
That's just wrong.
What are you seeing else? I want to be in your brain for a minute because it's insane. It's crazy.
Yeah. This movie swings for the fences in a way that in terms of, for me at least, in terms of the change from one movie to the next.
Yeah.
In the Star Wars franchise, this is by far the biggest. 90% of the originals of episode 4 takes place in basically a desert. It's pretty kind of contained a little bit with that. Still manages to create scope and scale, but the actual set pieces are largely just kind of desert scenes. In this movie you have Hoth, you have Dagobah, you have Cloud City. It's just so lofty in terms of it goes we can build literal worlds that are all unique and different from each other, and so the life forms there are different. The way in which people travel is different.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is so imaginative and inventive in terms of taking the idea of Star Wars and going the possibilities for this universe are so endless.
This review is written like the first one didn't happen. There's a little bit of a commentary that it's in its infancy, this what is it?
Yeah, did he say like the fledgling franchise? Or
Yeah,
something?
the Star Wars now an
The
unpromising.
original movie had already at this point almost made $1 billion.
Nope. Apparently, it's unpromising infancy. Like, so there's like a very subtle acknowledgement that like this is now something that is beginning and that is going to keep going. But like, there's no like, I don't know how you talk about Empire Strikes Back without comparing it to like, look at this thing that was that literally changed Hollywood and changed the world. And we are 3 years later, and here is pumped up. Like, now they don't have to worry about getting to telling the origins of these characters. We are hopping right in.
We're in.
Vader is coming right after them. Their romance is right there. Luke's adventure is right there. It's all now twice as many planets and better characterizations than the first movie. How is that not what you're writing about? Where it's like, I didn't think it worked. Because you have the structure now that you can read from of like, well, this movie compared to that one. This doesn't do that at all. It just goes like, it wasn't imaginative. Like, it's just...
Yeah. Star Wars was the original was such a phenomenon. You know, it was the #1 movie for like 8 months of the year.
Yeah.
The guts it took to turn around and go like, we're going to try and do that all over again, and we're going to do it bigger, and we're going to do it better than we did in the first one, and we are going to, you know, we are going to expand this world beyond what you can imagine, and to like really deliver on that.
Well, it's the template. It's
nothing
the template
else has done it.
That it spoils you, and it spoiled me for the rest of my my childhood into my adulthood, where when a sequel comes out and it doesn't do what Empire does, and I'm kind of like, well, I know it's possible to do it bigger and better with better characterizations and like and pump everything up to 10 and not lose the heart. In fact, double the heart. You know, like Empire is the template by which I compare every other sequel, and am constantly finding like other sequels don't hold up nearly as well.
To say that it's not a I don't know, what was the phrase, it's still in its infancy, is like, you have missed the notes that these people are hitting. But these people are just banging on all cylinders. Is there any
phrase more telling about the psychology of movie critics? The Star Wars series now in unpromising infancy. So
unpromising infancy.
You're acknowledging that this is the beginning of something big. Like you probably hated the original. You're like, oh, this is gonna not be anything. It wasn't. It became the biggest thing ever. And yet you still can't just admit, you still can't call it a phenomenon. You gotta say, like, now that it's, you know, lackadaisically beginning something that is...
It also admits, I don't know if they knew this when the movie came out, that there'd be another, but just that there'd be another and another and another and another, that it is in its infancy. Like, we're going to get a shit ton of these movies and they're all going to be huge, successful hits. Well, successful depending on how you define it. They'll certainly make money. Oh my God. Whether or not they're all great is debatable. But... So
let's move. This is the Starlog magazine that in our Thing episode, I found a clip of the review for The Thing from this magazine that was so crazy, I had to find the full review.
That's the level of production you can expect on this podcast.
Absolutely. It only took a couple of weeks.
We chase every review to ground. We're hunting them all down.
Now, there is nothing that expresses the psychology of movie reviewers than this magazine. This is the biggest hits of 1982 reviews. This has reviews for Star Trek II, E.T., Tron, Poltergeist, The Road Warrior, Blade Runner, and The Thing are all in just this magazine. The fact that the text of this magazine isn't, oh my God, overload. Oh my God. Oh my God.
There are so many good movies out right
The
now.
fact that it's kind of like, well, another summer come and gone, is just amazing to me. The fact
What
that
year
it's
is this? Like 82?
1982, the biggest
82,
hits
yeah.
of nine. This is the
How
special
spoiled you must be.
science
in
fiction
1982.
summer wrap up issue. Are we ready to rock?
Hmm.
When Universal decided to remake the classic 50s horror film The Thing, they made a smart decision to return to the original short story by William F. Campbell, Who Goes There? That was the only smart decision Universal made. Part of the tragedy of Hollywood filmmaking is, quote-unquote, the deal, in which individuals get assignments not by their respective qualifications or talents, but instead because they've been termed as hot commodities. So who should get the assignment to script this psychological suspense science fiction horror thriller? What more logical choice than Bill Lancaster, author of The Bad News Bears? Question mark. Were they hoping to work in Kids and Walter Matthau somewhere? And then John Carpenter
Right,
entered
because
the picture.
when you write one movie,
No, that's
next movie should have both the same cast and the same.
That's how Hollywood works. All
plot.
of your characters just show up in the next movie that you write.
You are now a child Walter Matthau writer, and
Right.
and that is every movie that you must make from now on.
And then John Carpenter entered the picture and totally ruined it the moment he did.
It doesn't say that.
Yeah.
That wasn't. It says they wrote that.
Yeah. And then John Carpenter
I thought
entered
that was
the picture
you joking. Jesus fucking Christ.
and totally
Okay.
ruined it the moment he did. Then comes the part of the interview that we read last time where he compares it to like garbage and like, who likes the smell of garbage. It has no pace, sloppy continuity, zero humor. We read this before. Bland characters on top of being totally devoid of either warmth or humanity. Now here's where it picks up. It says a great deal that Carpenter has been quoted to the effect of being, quote, surprised that his new abomination hasn't garnered either box office or critical success. The Thing is Carpenter's futile attempt to give the audience what he thinks they want. It amounts to little more than 2 hours of makeup test footage.
Fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah. The release of this film also
Some of
comes...
the best practical effects in any movie ever.
Nah, it's
before or since.
makeup test footage, apparently. The release of this film also comes as one of the prime examples of cinematic bad timing. To release a cold and sterile horror effects movie against the optimism of E.T., the reassuring return of Star Trek II, the technical perfection of Tron, and the sheer integrity of Blade Runner is the ultimate slap in the face to a movie hoping to cash in quickly on the genre audience.
Why wasn't this movie like the other movies that were out?
But that's an amazing point to make, where it's like, there's all of these other great movies out there, and this one is definitely just a cash grab.
Yeah.
It's not doing anything unique. It's not doing its own thing.
Why isn't it optimistic like how E.T. is optimistic?
Yeah.
It's like, because it's not optimistic.
Because not.
The point of the movie is not to be optimistic.
It's literally giving you a different interpretation of aliens.
Different story.
Yeah.
Maybe aliens are not adorable friends who like Reese's Pieces. Like
Also the reassuring return of Star Trek II. Star Trek II is really bleak compared to the first one. It's like it's a revenge story, and it's very specifically
Shakespearean, like dark. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's not a reassuring return. In and itself is pretty bleak.
I guess in and of itself, I was reassured. Like, oh, thank God there are plenty more Star Trek movies.
Right, right.
But they were all out when I started watching them, so I had the benefit of hindsight.
Yeah. If you're waiting for me to discuss the specifics of the movie itself, in all honesty, I don't have a great deal to say. Still, it is supposed to be a review of the film, so now let's return to it. I must admit to finding, I know, like, this is what we need to read. We need to read.
Full on acknowledging, like, yeah.
I must admit the first 8 minutes of John Carpenter's The Thing are arresting, interesting, but that's it. The film takes place almost entirely at an Antarctic scientific research station. Carpenter uses this locale to about the same effect as blood on a snow cone. In other words...
What does he mean almost entirely, though? Can we just...
No, entirely.
Exclusively.
Entirely.
Exclusively. Yeah.
Carpenter uses this locale to about the same effect as blood on a snow cone. In other words, atmosphere is used to no other purpose than to establish cold. I think he's having a stroke.
What is that?
I think this writer is having a stroke in the middle of this sentence.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, not that I don't agree with him completely, because he doesn't use the isolation and inability to get help and the claustrophobia of
not at all
living together with these people who you don't trust. Yeah. None of that is used effectively. That doesn't create tension in any way whatsoever in this movie.
Also,
Absolutely.
by the way, Blood on a Snow Cone is the name of my punk band out of Bushwick. You should check us out. Then comes the characters. And first, let me say that not one of the ensemble of actors in this film can be faulted. They did the best they could, working with inferior material so light it could have been typed on cotton. Chilly could have been used as the word to describe the characters as well as the climate. To be exact, this film doesn't have characters. It has victims. Every actor is left to playing the same thing. Impersonal drones readying for special effects deaths.
No.
There's... Again, like we talked about in the episode, there is a little bit of ambiguity about their roles. They're not clearly definable archetypes necessarily, because the intent is to show the camaraderie of a bunch of people doing a job, all being put into a psychological situation where they have to survive.
I think we talked about this already in the actual review, but the purpose, the movie goes out of its way to not establish connections.
Yeah.
The point is not about like, oh, he was my friend, we go way back. In fact, that kind of sentence is said exactly once.
Yeah.
The sheriff says, like, I've known that man for 10 years. And Kurt Russell goes, like, look at where we are. And the guy goes, yeah, you're right, we should probably kill him.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are trying to survive.
Yeah.
Like they don't have the luxury of friendship. And yeah, I mean, also the depth of like the fact that the characters are a little bit of blank slate. I mean, each of them has their own characterization, clearly. Like there are characters within these people, but they're fairly blank slates, I think, so that if someone, like, to create the impression of like it could be anybody, that there is no acting out of character because there was no character to begin with, and also to allow the audience to imprint on whoever they need to in that moment.
We are even incapable of caring for the lead character, despite the fact that he's played by Kurt Russell, a fine, inventive actor who seems to excel whenever he's away from Carpenter's direction, with Elvis being the sole exception. Got to get a dig in. You can't just say a nice thing.
Nope.
Can't just do it. As for the plot, it's merely a thin excuse for various sideshow grotesqueries like crawling limbs and animated decapitated heads.
This is for a sci-fi magazine, right? Like this is for exactly the kind of people who are into like the idea of like unique like prosthetics in movies to create the illusion of alien life forms.
Yeah, like right before this, you reviewed Tron and Poltergeist. Like this is for these
exactly
readers.
The audience.
Yeah.
This is exactly the audience that movie was made for.
Looking at the film from a purely technical end, it's faultless, aside from the music, which barely exists. Cinematography, sound, and editing are all state-of-the-art. Yet these qualities have become expected, even passé, in these days of fantasy movie making. Yes, these out-of-touch days of the early 80s when fantasy movie making has already become passé.
We're over the hill in terms of fantasy at this point. Yeah.
What's needed is something unique and individual from the director behind the camera, that undefinable ingredient from the movie maker that lets us know he cares and loves about what he cares about and loves what he's creating. Again, that's tied to that earlier review that we read that was like, he seems disinterested in letting us know how he feels, you know. The only aspect of this film that possesses that quality comes from young Rob Bottin. His makeup is sheer perfection, possibly even genius. Bottin has always taken both care and pride in his craft, but for this film, his talent has been sadly misused. It's a literal like runway of his work.
It's a masterclass in props.
It's just a montage.
He's also 22.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like hiring Van Gogh to repaint a park bench. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You let Rob Bottin go have fun with a movie about a shape-shifting alien that can take on the characteristics of anything that it wants. It's giving Van Gogh 30 like canvases and saying, do what you want.
Do what you want. Explore this. Yeah, it's his point that it's underused, that it's a waste of his talent, I guess. But it's like, no, like his props carry this movie.
Yeah.
His props are what create the holy shit. Like,
well, he agrees with that. It's safe to say that Bottin's makeup is the only element of John Carpenter's The Thing that held my interest. Better, it should be called Rob Bottin's The Thing, for if this film belongs to anyone, it's certainly him. Sure.
Well,
sure.
I think Rob Bottin. I think that this is the gold standard for props, but that's unfair to literally everybody else who I think crushed this movie. Carpenter, yeah, the tension of this movie, the choices that they make of, like, you know, the famous whole the light in the eyes scene where they're testing the blood, the tension there is like, that's not, I mean, the end of that scene is Rob Bottin, but the tension leading up to it is Carpenter. And the actors all, you know, humming, you know, all playing along with the same. Yeah.
This is actually one part where I do agree. This is 100% something that I had not thought of that I thought was a good point.
Okay.
And where there is story logic, when Carpenter and Lancaster have already established every part of the thing as a separate, deadly, and reproductive organism. So what do they have their hero do? Toss dynamite at the monster, blowing it into 1,000 pieces. The more the merrier. Spread the wealth. Could it be set up for 1,000 sequels? I mean...
Oh, that's an excellent point.
Yeah, that's one of those things where I kind of just like, you know, oh, just watch the movie. But like, I do agree that within the logic of like knowing that each piece kind of can sprout legs and walk off.
Self-contained. Yeah. Yeah. That's a fair problem.
But
with the movie.
But here's where it gets, we're almost done here. It's my contention that John Carpenter was never meant to direct a science fiction horror movie. Here are some things he'd be better suited to direct: traffic accidents, train wrecks, and public floggings.
Wow. There are reviews, and then they're just like, that's just mean. That's just rude and mean. What an awful thing to say.
A couple of episodes ago, we talked about how like these sound very personal in times. And I made like an anecdote where it's like, you better get your shit together. Listen to this. If you haven't seen, if John Carpenter wants to continue directing films, he'd better wise up. That's in here. It's not
enough. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah,
who are
you, dude? It's not enough to have a good idea. You must have vision and the ability to realize it. It's not enough to put your name over the title. You must have evidence of your heart, mind, and soul on the screen. It's not enough.
Sounds like his film professor.
Yeah,
like...
yeah. It's not enough to only show the grotesque. You must explore it and its relation to man beyond the more exploitation of simple depiction. I think that's supposed to be mere, but it's more in here. Carpenter says he's obsessed with the insanity of evil and its immortal quality. If John Carpenter's The Thing were about that, I would have been interested. Instead, he made this film, and I have no idea what it's about. Correction, I do know what it's about. It's about 2 hours.
I will say at the end of it, to this review's credit, it does kind of provide a prescription of what it wanted, which is in short supply in these reviews.
Right.
Uh,
But again, it's like, no, the movie did all of those things. Like the movie, what when we say we want, like, well, what is your suggestion? I also want that suggestion to not literally then just be a laundry list of things that the movie succeeded in doing. Like, I need.
Yeah.
Why don't you explore the humanity of what happens to people? You can't just put the grotesque up there. You have to show us like something special that we've never seen before. It's like, it did.
Yeah.
It did.
Holy smokes.
I knew there was more to this review when we read that little excerpt. I was like, I gotta see the rest here.
Yeah, this one's a weird one. I do agree with the note about blowing up the thing. Other than that, I don't know. This one, the thing is an interesting one that I'm glad we covered, because it's a movie I watched a while back and then rewatched in preparation for the podcast. This movie, the thing has stuck with me in a way that very few movies do.
And we talked a little bit about this last time. I don't like it when people like think about the hypotheticals of stuff that's unsaid in the movie as if there's supposed to be a definitive answer that if they got it right, the director will come out of retirement to be like, you got me.
Yeah,
you finally figured it out, everybody. Definitively, blah, 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 blah. And I always like movies where that is not the point. Maybe the director did have in a Bible somewhere that he's never revealed to anybody the actual like continuity of the way they filmed the movie and what the actual story is, that is the stuff that they are not telling us about who is the thing and when, just so that structurally the movie flows the way they want it to.
Makes sense internally.
And there are little hints that maybe for 30 years from now, we'll still be finding new things on the screen, in the shot, in the framing that allow the conversation to continually be had. That's great. And that's wonderful. And I think The Thing does that great, where like, it does not matter. You can't only enjoy the movie if you know MacReady is a human at the end. It's not like that's the only way to enjoy the movie. Like, the fact that we can all talk about it, but that ambiguity is there. There was an interview recently where Carpenter went on Colbert, and Colbert literally took the time to go like, I'm not saying tell me. I'm saying when you made The Thing, did you have, like, do you have an answer? Is there a definitive answer? And Carpenter like slyly smiles and goes like, yes. And he's like, you know, will you ever tell somebody? And Carpenter goes like, yes, if you pay me a lot of money. Like, he clearly, it was a joke. Yeah. And he just gets off on the fact that everybody talks about it, and he just likes to mess with people about it. I love that, because it allows us. You know, that's a way Kubrick would never do it. Kubrick would never be like, I don't know, is it about Native American burial grounds?
You gonna make it work my while?
Yeah. Like,
that's great.
Like, I like the fact that Carpenter may have had a definitive answer, but that's not the only way to enjoy it. Yeah. You know, I love that about it.
And yeah, you can go either way, and each way has it's so carefully like done and made in a way that like each alternative is both equally plausible and has different ramifications for like how you feel about each character retroactively. Like all the choices leading up to that ending. You go like, okay, like if X, then Y, and like, yeah, you just get to work it the whole way back.
Yep.
And the knock we saw a lot and saw again in this one is that the characterization is like shallow, and it bugs me. I know I've already said it. It just bugs me because it's exactly enough, in my opinion.
Yeah,
it's exactly what was called for this movie. There are little scenes you just gotta like be looking for them and to see them, like the scene where they're testing the blood, and they test the blood of one of the dead guys and it doesn't react. and Keith David turns to Kurt Russell and goes, "I guess that makes you a murderer." There's so much
There's
there.
so much there. Yeah.
There's so much there. And like, you just gotta not, you need to be not paying attention in order to miss that kind of stuff. Or like the infamous, the iconic, "You gotta be fucking kidding me."
Yeah.
There's so much character in that. That like you're just oblivious to it if you're not seeing characterization in this movie.
This review, I think, expressed to me kind of what I think is probably something that we haven't talked a lot about, that probably hinders a lot of these movies, which is context around other movies that are around at the time. You and I get to watch The Thing when we are in the mood for a psychological horror movie,
Sure.
you know, using great effects. We are completely removed from the fact that it came out right along E.T., the timeline of E.T. and Blade Runner and all of these other things. And I know we talk when we do our episodes, we do try to talk about like what was out in the movie theater around the same time. But I think it's very hard to do that. Like when Armageddon and Deep Impact came out simultaneously, people really kind of made their choice. The Illusionist and The Prestige came out around the same time. It's like you seem at the
Friends
moment
with Benefits, and what was the other one?
yeah, No Strings Attached or whatever.
No
the fuck.
Strings Attached. It's a classic. Which am I an Ashton guy? Am I a JT guy?
And it is that thing where it's like you kind of pick your camp, and that becomes this is good and this is bad. Bug's Life and Ants, you know, like either one is superior to the other. But then like a couple of years go by and they're not side by side on the shelf. They're not right next to each other on Netflix. Right. You know, they're not side by side on the shelf of the video store. So you can like, oh no, I want to watch this specific story right now.
Yeah.
And enjoy it for what it is. So I think that may be what we see when we watch The Thing, where it's like removed from the context of, oh no, it was too bleak, it was too dreary, it was reminding people too much of da-da-da-da-da, or we wanted optimism at this time, and, you know, Reagan and da-da-da-da, or whatever else was going on, we're removed from that.
I think that's fair. But at the same time, like, I do understand that, like, yeah, there are other there's no question that there are great movies out at the same time as this movie competing with it, and that context is important. But at the same time, you've walked into a movie theater to watch this movie. Like, watch this movie. Don't sit there and think about what else you could be watching.
Yeah, watch
this movie and appraise this movie on its own merit, rather than going, it's not E.T., it's not blah, blah, blah. It's not, you know, it's not Star Trek 2. Like, movies aren't comparative.
Yeah.
Art should not be comparative. Art should be a thing that you enjoy as a standalone piece. To my mind, if the movie relates to something else, if the movie asks you to draw comparisons, that's one thing. But The Thing never asked to be, it's not a response to E.T. It's not a, you know, it's not a refutation of the idealism of E.T. It came out at exactly the same time. So it's not meant to be watched as a like companion piece to any of these movies. So stop comparing it to like that.
And also,
like,
as a reviewer, like I'm getting the vibe that you're thinking about these movies. You're writing a review within the context of what else is coming out, but you never like straight up say that. You never say this isn't the movie that America needs right now. You just say John Carpenter's full of shit. And it's like
he should be directing Traffic.
Right.
Fuck
so
you.
if that is the case, that these movie reviewers can't get the context of the time out of their head when they're doing it, they at least need to communicate that. They at least need to say that that's what they're doing, where it's like maybe one day from now people will pull this movie out and go like, "Oh, interesting, but not right now." Like
we're far too idyllic right now.
Yeah. Like if that's the case, then you got to say it. But you're also right where it's like especially in this time, there wasn't like strategy really put into exactly when a movie is being released, and like movies are made and it takes them years to make them and it just happens to coincide. Now there's probably a lot of like, oh no, there was a school shooting, so we can't release this movie that has something that might be thought of in poor taste, so let's like there's probably a lot more thought put in now than there was back then, where it's like, sorry, this has been in the pipeline to be released on this day.
We made a movie, like movies that are sequels, movies that are plays on other movies, like movies that are, using the same source material, like, riffs on Shakespeare, stuff like that. Sure, I get comparisons. But when a movie is meant to be its own piece, you should review it as its own piece.
Yeah.
You should review the movie on the merits, rather than trying to say, I'd rather be watching E.T. because it's more optimistic. That's not, you're talking past the movie at that point. If you say this movie it misses the mark because it paints a bleak picture but executes that poorly, or there are issues with poor writing, poor directing, those kinds of things, fine. But like, it's annoying to say like the theme of this movie is different from a equally or better movie. That's stupid.
Right. But also to Trevor's point, where it's like, does this movie succeed? Did it make the movie that it wanted to make?
Yeah,
and I think
exactly.
John Carpenter absolutely made the movie he wanted to make. He succeeded. I mean, it's a slam dunk.
It's Carpenter's favorite movie.
Yeah.
It's his favorite movie he's ever made. He thinks it's the best work he's ever done.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to agree. It's my favorite of his.
Yeah.
Yeah. It absolutely succeeds in what it sets out to do. It sets that feel. You walk out of there feeling the way you were supposed to, with the same kind of confusion that he's clearly going for. And it stays with you. Like, it's powerful when a movie you think about a movie a week later trying to piece it all together. Like, that's rare.
You broke my brain with the Star Wars review, because the whole point of this podcast was so that I could have like a power fantasy of holding reviewers to account to show them how wrong they were. And then you read a review for Star Wars in which they annotated it and actually found the reviewer, and seeing that the vibe seems to be, oh, no. I stand by it.
Yeah.
I read that now in everything, all of these reviews, 20, 30, 40 years later, I'm now reading that energy where like, I know I will never get satisfaction from them. If we found this reviewer for the thing.
Yeah, you're not going to change his mind, dude.
Like, I guess I was naive, and part of me thought like, if I could, like the end of Zodiac, I just want to see his face and know that it's him. I just want to walk up, going into the hardware store and seeing the reviewer for Jurassic Park who said it has no sense of hope, and just kind of like, and just stare at him and have him look at me with that Zodiac face.
Where
just
we both know.
Where we both know. That was so important to me, but I know I'm never going to get it.
Well, here, the odds of this ever happening are astronomical and laughable. But if anybody ever knows any of the people that we review these things, and they direct these reviews to those people, and those people are interested in talking to us,
yes,
day or night, we will talk to them.
Yes. And
I would love to ask people about these reviews. The other thing too is the review that we did that for, where he went back and went like, that movie was for losers then, and it's for losers now. I respect that so much. I have nothing but respect for someone who's like, I stand by my gut call on that 50 years later.
But
that's like, I absolutely appreciate that that was his job, and he stood by his work. Cool.
But it's literally no, because it's literally the equivalent. Do you remember that old stock footage of that bridge that was like,
shaky,
That's like the architect for that bridge going like, you know, I stand by gravity's not a big deal. I stood by it then, and I stood like he.
I'll tell you what, the bridge
at,
doesn't break in the version I saw.
yeah, but like to stand by being that bad at your job. Your job is to accurately like hold a mirror up to this art and to like get it right, to say, I know that this won't make it. I know that Star Wars will not stand the test of time.
I'm not saying I agree. I'm saying I respect the conviction.
God.
I love the idea that someone was like, in spite of all the evidence to the contrary, I still think you're a dork if you like this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I gotta respect it, man.
That's amazing. Well, this has been a phenomenally fun. This has been a lot of fun. We should do more like this, and we're gonna
for sure.
We're gonna also kind of look at maybe doing some reviews of bad movies that got good reviews.
I cannot wait to do that.
We'll pick a couple out from that. But this has been amazing. Please like, share, subscribe the show. Tell a friend. We have a blast doing this, and our viewership and listenership has been steadily improving and getting bigger, and I love that very much because I'd love to keep doing this, and it's so much fun.
We appreciate it, everybody.
Find me on social media at Dave Columbo on TikTok, davecolumbo.com, and DVD Columbo on Instagram. Send us any comments on anything on there, and I've been
any
Dave
other
Columbo.
recommendations for grab bag episodes like this? Please do it.
Please. I've been Dave Columbo.
I'm Mick Andrews,
and this has been Off the Mark.